North Carolina vinyl picker here on Sunday. We're going to try to get the show in early today, so that way it'll come up and you can watch it this evening. Today we're going to talk about my 10 favorite British bands. This ain't going to be easy. It hasn't been easy. I've been working on it for about a week, and there's going to be a lot of people out there and bands that didn't make the top 10. I think it's more generational and locational, where you grew up, what you were listening to when you were in your late teens or into your 20s, and what stuck with you all these years. So there's going to be a whole bunch of bands that didn't make the grade, but they're honorable mentions. So we're going to get right into this, and at the end, I'm going to show you what I've picked up this week. And then I got a little announcement at the end. So here we go. Let's go ahead and do this. So this is the soundtrack of my life. I've been listening to these bands ever since I was like a late teen or early 20s. And they stuck with me all these years. But honorable mentions. Now, some people out there are going to freak out when I go ahead and mention all these honorable mentions and say, what could he have picked for his top 10 if these are all just honorable mentions? But let's get into it. So here we go. Honorable mentions that didn't make the top 10. Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, David Bowie, Pink Floyd. I got them all written down here. Emerson, Lake and Palmer and the Nice. Gentle Giant, Jethro Tull, King Crimson, Supertramp, Mike Oldfield, Steve Winwood, Traffic, Soft Machine, Sky and Curved Air with Francis Monkman, the late Francis Monkman who just passed, Nectar, Procol Harum, Renaissance. Now I'm sure I'm leaving off somebody, but so anyway, let's get into the top 10. And I picked out a few of my favorite records to show as we go through this top 10. Coming in at number 10 is a band that I got into pretty early on, and my friend John is a big fan of this group, and of course it's The Wake. It's IQ. Now these guys were the neo-prog movement. 12th Night. The neo-prog movement started in late 1981, and there was bands like Marillion, Palace, Pendragon, 12th Night, IQ. I have in Solstice, and there's a lot of other ones. They even mentioned the later Rush albums, the ones that a lot of the people don't like as much when they had heavy keyboards, like Hold Your Fire, and I can't remember them all. But there's 4 or 5 of them that they came out in the 80s, and yeah, so they even mentioned those as being neo-prog. I never really considered Rush being prog music, but so neo-prog emphasized on individual solos instead of group improvisation. So there you go. And so those are just 2 of the bands from that time period. I seen Marillion during the first tour, and then I saw them again on the Fugazi tour. And they mentioned Fugazi as being one of the beginning of the neo-prog movement. So there you go. That covers number 10. I seen Marillion 3 times. I seen Marillion 3 times. And I never seen IQ or any of those other neo-prog bands. I never got to see those. I like Pendragon quite a bit. But a lot of those records or CDs, I have them on CDRs. I have copies of them. I don't have a whole lot of the original CDs or vinyl of those. They're pretty expensive to get now. If you'd bought them back then, you probably could have got them cheaper. But a lot of times that was during the CD era. It was coming up to the CD era, and a lot of that was just on CD. Okay, so coming in at number 9. Now, number 9 would be the Canterbury bands. Now we're talking about Caravan, Hatfield in the North, National Health, Egg, Arzachel, and Steve Hillage. And this was from the Canterbury area of England. And here's the first Egg CD. This is with Steve Hillage and his band, and great stuff. Dave Stewart, I'm sorry, not Steve Hillage. Steve Hillage was doing his own thing. This is with Dave Stewart, the keyboardist that would go on to play with Bruford and Clive Brooks and Mott Campbell. And they made 3 albums, and I have them all on CD because, again, these are $100, $200 records. And Steve Hillage, after our Zatchel, this was the beginning. We should start at the beginning. Our Zatchel was the beginning with Steve Hillage and Dave Stewart. And then they kind of split up, and then that's when Dave Stewart was in Egg, and Steve Hillage made Fish Rising. Now, this would have been the second Arzacho album. So Steve Hillage was out, and Steve Hillage was with Gong. And then you got Hatfield in the North. Of course, this is the Rotters Club. And you got Caravan, which is in the land of the gray and the pink. And then also you have National Health, this is their second album. I like this album more than the first one. This is of Cures and Cures. So there you go. So those are the number 9, the Canterbury bands. I looped them all together because there's so many of them, and it was and I still listen to them this day. I love all those records. National Health probably being my favorite out of all those. Yeah, I love National Health. And that actually, Bill Bruford was in National Health for a short time. And I'd love to get that CD of him playing live. Every once in a while you'll see it, but it's a unauthorized release. It's not an official release of that. Okay, coming in number 8 is a band I've seen many, many, many times. I gotta find them here. And they were just wonderful. Every time that I seen them, they were just incredible. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you these, what I pulled. Now the Moody Blues coming in number 8. Moody Blues, I seen them as early as the Octave Tour, and I saw the Octave Tour down in Virginia. And then later on, I seen them 2 or 3 times with an orchestra. And they started in Birmingham, England in 1964, and they were active till 74, and then they released a bunch of solo albums. Then they got back together in 77, and they stayed together until 2018, when Graham Edge died, and that was pretty much the end of the Moody Blues. Ray Thomas also had passed by then, the flautist. And I never saw him after Ray Thomas passed away. I love Ray Thomas. I love his 2 solo albums. And yeah, so those two members are gone. Then you have this one here. There's a Taiwanese pressing. And this is their first 7 albums. This is a booklet I found in Florida. And it's their pressings, they probably sound horrible, but it's just to have it was pretty cool. And then, of course, this is Justin Hayward's first solo album, Songwriter, which I really like. I still listen to this day. This is the Blue Jays with Hayward and Lodge. And I'm just showing you a little snippet of some of the solo stuff. And here's Ray Thomas's first album. And this one here is got the sticker on here, the hype sticker, which is pretty cool. This is from Mighty Oaks. And then he did a second album. So there you go. And that was Moody Blues. You know, what can you say about the Moody Blues? Just an awesome band. They're coming in at number 8. Coming in at number 7, Kate Bush. I remember watching Kate Bush when she came on the scene back in the 70s, again with my friend John. And I remember watching them. I think I was up in John's bedroom where he had his stereo and everything. And we were watching Saturday Night Live, and she was on. And it was in 1978. So that would have been, a year after I joined the service. Her debut was Wuthering Heights. And I seen her on Saturday Night Live, which I mentioned. David Gilmour produced her first demo tape, and that's how she got her to sign on with EMI, I believe it was. Began writing at the age of 11. And she's from Bexley Heath in Kent, UK. That's where Kate is from. And got a few things here, and she's pretty easy on the eyes. Here's Running Up the Hill. I just pulled out a few of these to show you. This is a mini EP of Babushka. And this is my favorite Kate Bush album, The Dreaming. So there you go. And she's coming in at number 7. Coming in at number 6 is probably, and this is getting tougher as you get to the top for me, because all the ones I left behind. So the Strawbs. I love the Strawbs. Seen them only one time, again with my friend John. And I reference John a lot because he turned me on to all this music. I was listening to Bowie, and I was listening. He tells me all the time I was listening to Steve Hackett, but he turned me on to the Lamb. He turned me on to a lot of these bands that I had no idea what they were. I was listening to Alice Cooper and all those bands back in high school. Yeah. So, when I heard the Lamb, it blew my mind, and then I didn't get it at first. It just took me a few spins, but after I got it, then I was off and running, and then, then you go down that prog rock, fusion, jazz rabbit hole that I've been chasing for 50 years. So anyway, we're talking about the Strawbs. So I seen the Strawbs, and I believe it was on the Deep Cuts tour, and it was at the Capitol Theater in Passaic, New Jersey. They were founded in '64, and Dave Cousins, and also Rick Wakeman was with them in the beginning. I completed my record collection with getting the album Dragonfly, which was their second album. So I'll be showing you that next week when I show you the haul I got from the record show the other day, yesterday in Charlotte. I got quite a bit of stuff, and I always bring just a specific amount of money, and that's it. And once I'm done, I'm done. I'm out of there. I could have spent probably $1,000, but I didn't. The Strawbs were from St. Mary's Training College in Strawberry Hill, London. They were from the UK. Of course, all these bands are from the UK. And so I have a few things here to show. And of course, these are my favorite 3 records of the Strawbs. But if you ask me today, I will tell you Grave New World is my favorite record, because I say that all the time to lots of people. Not people in Walmart or nothing. They don't even know who the Strawbs are. Not too many people. I'll wear a t-shirt in there, but somebody will say, kind of look at me kind of weird. I have my Steven Wilson shirt on yesterday. Like-minded people. When I was at the record show yesterday, I had a lot of people say, hey, I like Steven Wilson, or I like Porcupine Tree. Actually, when I walked in, they were playing Porcupine Tree, and I put a snippet, and I put it on a small, a short video. I put it on my channel, so you can go back and you can check it and watch this little short one. They were playing music in there, so I didn't make it long, so I didn't want to get a strike. But I went around and I was talking to a fella. I'm just going to a little side story here. So I was talking to a guy, and he was selling 45s, and we were talking for a few minutes, and then he said, boy, you look familiar. I said, I have a YouTube channel, the North Carolina Vinyl Picker. He says, oh, that's where I saw you. It was nice to meet you. And he shook my hand. I said, he says, you got over 200 and some videos. I said, yeah. I said, I've been doing this a couple of years. And they said, oh, and you show some really awesome stuff. And he went on to go on and tell, and then somebody else overheard him, and then the whole place was erupting and say, oh, the North Carolina Vinyl Pickers here. And nah, none of that happened. But I was talking to this guy, and he told me that he was glad to see me and stuff. So we talked for a second. So here's Hero and Heroine. This is Strawbs. This is another one of my favorites. I love the Ghost, the Strawbs, the Life Auction. Oh my gosh. Those 3 are my favorite. And then, of course, Grave New World. So those are my favorite 3 Strawbs albums. And the Strawbs are coming in at number 6. Coming in at number 5, we're halfway up the ladder. We got to talk about Camel. I love Camel. That's another band that I've loved a long, long time. I have a complete collection, except for I'm missing a couple of their later CDs, Harbor of Tears, I'm Not As Good As a Wink, and Raja. Those are three I don't have on CD, and they're quite expensive if you look them up on eBay and stuff. I have CDR copies of all three of them, but I do not have a actual physical format of those last three records. But all the early stuff I have. And Camel started in 1971. And past members, of course, were Pete Bardens, the late keyboardist for the band, and they were from Guildford, UK. And my favorite Camel album has been my favorite Camel album for a long, long time. I like the Snow Goose. I love the Snow Goose. I love their second album. And I love the stuff after this album, the Mood Madness. And of course, this is their other cover. So there you go, the UK and the US release. So there you go, Mood Madness, my favorite Camel album. Like I said, I never got to see them, but I know people. I've know people that have seen them. I haven't seen them. So number 4, this was difficult because for the past 20 years, I've been a Porcupine Tree, Steven Wilson fan, huge, and I bought their last album, and I've seen Steven Wilson. I've seen him twice by himself, and I've seen Porcupine Tree once in Florida a long time, about 20 years ago. So, and I've been listening to their music. I mean, I wore them out. I started with Signify. That was the first. That was the one with the ladies all tied up and hanging from the ceiling. And I've been listening to them since then. And I was in Orlando. I think I've told this story. I was in Orlando and I saw must have been the CD, because it was back then. And I picked up Signify, and then I was off and running. I was telling my friend John up in North about Porcupine Tree, and I think it took him a little longer to get into the band, but I turned him on to Spock's Beard. That's another one that should have been on that list. That's not forgotten, but it's just off the list. It's off the top 10. Spock's Beard. They're kind of like in the neo-prog movement also, with Neil Morris. And then later on, I got to see Neil Morris in Jacksonville on the Momentum tour. That was really cool to see him. And my daughter was with me. She's seen Alan Parsons with me. She's seen Steve Hackett with me. She's seen quite a few shows. And that's pretty special, the father-daughter time. Listen to her father's passion, the soundtrack of my life, so to speak. So I'm trying to do a proper list here, Ian. I'm doing a proper list if you're watching. So Porcupine Tree and Steven Wilson, I saw them on the tour in Orlando, and I also seen Steven Wilson by himself. And for the ones I picked out for him was The Raven That Refused to Sing, and then I also picked up their latest album, The Porcupine Tree, Closure Continuation. Now, somebody was asking Steven Wilson one time in an interview about, whose music is what, because he worked with Opeth, he worked with Blackfield, he worked with a bunch of people, and he said it's all Steven Wilson music. So there you go. Porcupine Tree, Steven Wilson, he was born in 1967 in Kingston upon the Thames in London, UK. And Porcupine Tree was formed in 1987, so he was 20 years old when he formed that band. He's had several different bands. You could Wikipedia all these people all day long and find out more information on these groups, but these are all fantastic bands. So coming in at number 3 would be Marillion and Fish. So Marillion is a band that was part of that neo-prog movement, and formed in 1979 in Aylesbury, Buckinghamshire. And Fish left in 1988, and Steve Hogarth took over as lead vocals and frontman. Their new LP, Hour Before Dark, entered in at number 2 as the highest charted album by Marillion since Clutching at Straws. And here's the album here, An Hour Before Midnight, or An Hour Before It's Dark, sorry. And this was my favorite album of last year. I listen to it at least once a week or once every 2 weeks. Still to this day, I love this album. I love all the later Marillion stuff, Afraid of Sunlight and The Brave. I love all that the middle stuff. I love the early stuff with Fish. But the thing I have a problem with now, as I'm 65, is that the early stuff with Fish was during the 80s. And I'm not real keen on the 80s sound, that electric drums and all that stuff. And I just don't, I don't gravitate to 80s music. When I want to listen to some music, it's usually the 70s or the newer stuff. And here's a copy of Clutching at Straws. And this was the final album with Fish. He did 4 albums with them and some live stuff. A lot of video out there. And I have some Fish. Most of my Fish albums are, they're all on CD. Except for I have his latest album is over there. And that's, so there you go. So Marillion, number 3. Now we got 2 heavyweights at the top. Well, I couldn't do a show without talking about Yes. And Yes comes in at number 2. Now, you could ask me next week, I'd tell you Marillion was number 1. Or you could ask me 2 weeks from now, and I'd tell you Yes was number 1. But there can only be one number 1. And you probably already know who that is by now. But we're going to talk about number 2. And number 2 is Yes. This is probably my favorite Yes album. Of course, everybody knows this record, Close to the Edge. I love Fragile. I love the first 2 albums with Peter Banks. And I like The Flash, the band he created with Tony Kaye after he got booted from Yes. I love Steve Howe. I love Chris Squire. Seen him many times. This is a promo copy of Fish Out of Water. I have a couple copies of that. I found another promo for like $5. Here's a promo copy of La Elias, which is my favorite John Anderson album. So they took a break and they all recorded some solo stuff, but some of them didn't work out too well. Alan White's album's not too good. And Rick Wakeman, of course, did 6 Wives of Henry VIII and Journey to the Center of the Earth. I have them over there. But I didn't want to show you too many records because I still have to go through all the stuff I got this week. So there you go. So where was my paperwork on Yes? I know I had it here somewhere. I don't know. Problems. I don't know. I lost it. Maybe we'll get back to it. So coming in at number 1 is Genesis. Genesis is my favorite band, and they've been my favorite band for a long, long time. And what can I say? I've seen them lots of times. I've seen them. They founded in 1967 with the original band, Banks, Gabriel, Rutherford, Phillips, and Mayhew. They were from Godalming, Surrey. And so there you go. And I seen them on the Wind and Weathering tour 2 times. And then later on, I got to see them in Orlando with my nephew for a couple songs on one show. And then I have friends that seen them when they were really early on. So I've seen that. I think I saw them on the Abacab tour. I've seen them 4 or 5 times anyway. I don't have them. We already went through all them concert tickets here a while ago. And I'm going to do a show here coming up probably in the next couple weeks. It's going to be my favorite 10 concerts that I went to in my life. So I think that's going to be interesting. Since I already pulled it, I probably won't pull the stubs out again unless I can find them in the... But anyway, let's go ahead and I'll show you a few of the Genesis records. My nephew gifted me this one here. This is from Genesis to Revelation. I love that album. I love the Peter's voice, how pure it is and how young he was. A year ago, somebody said, "What's your favorite Genesis album?" I said, "It must be Trespass." I love Trespass. I love Anthony Phillips, his guitar work, and his contribution to the band. It's too bad he couldn't have gone on further. But then we gained, of course, Hackett and Collins. And then we've got Nursery Crime. This is all the Peter Gabriel years. You got Foxtrot, which I want to get a gatefold of that. I don't have a gatefold of either one of those. Genesis Live, You know, someone told me one time when I was in the Navy, I was overseas, and they told me that Genesis Live originally, if you find the Italian version, there's a version out there that's a double album. It's the whole show. This was only what, 6 songs or whatever, and but he said it was originally. If you look it up, I looked it up one time. I did find an article where the guy was talking about the full show, and they cut it down for the Americans and made it a single album. But originally, I think it was an Italian pressing or a Polish pressing. It was some pressing from over in the overseas in Europe, where it was released for a short period of time or something as a double album. So if you ever see it, or it's out there apparently, just never was released, or it was released for a short period of time. And then of course you have Sell in England by the Pound. This is my promo copy of this. Sounds incredible. Then of course you got The Lamb, which is a lot of people's favorite album from Genesis. Then you got the 2 albums after Gabriel left. You got Trick of the Tail, which is a yellow copy. This is the, I don't know. So then, then you got the Window Weathering, which I've seen them on tour twice doing this at the Spectrum and also at the Garden. And yeah, so they were from, Genesis was from Surrey, England. So that's it. That's my top 10. Sorry I couldn't find that Yes sticker. I got it here somewhere. I don't know what happened to it. It must have got stuck to something. So now we're going to go ahead and talk about what I picked up this week. So I got a few things here in the mail from eBay. And it was 2 Yellow Jackets albums I did not have with Jimmy Haslip. This one here is Times Squared. And this one here is Altered State. Of course, these are this was from 2005. And this one was from 2003. So there you go. I don't know if my friend John's going to want me to send these to him. But yeah, so these are some great jazz fusion. And I love Yellow Jackets. I like Spyro Gyra. I like all them bands. You know, there's a lot of people out there that listen to jazz and they listen to fusion. They listen to Weather Report, or they listen to Return to Forever. That rabbit hole is huge. But they often poo-poo on the Yellow Jackets or Spyro Gyra or David Sanborn or some of those, or Lee Ritenour. And I love all them guys. I love them. I don't listen to them as much as I do. Like I love Al Di Meola and John McLaughlin. And like I said, it's a huge rabbit hole. Okay, so then I was at the Antique Mall up in Nebo, which is not too far from me. I found this 45 of Visible Touch from Genesis. It's hard to see. And so that was pretty cool for $2. And then I found this one, which I'm probably going to put in my store. David Lee Roth, Gone Crazy. Yeah, I just bought it because of the cool looking cover. I don't listen to Van Halen. I've never owned a Van Halen album. And yeah, that might sound crazy to some people, but if you just watch my 10 favorite bands, you'll know why I don't listen to Van Halen, I guess. So there you go. And then I found this there, which I've been looking for. It was $20. It's an OG, original copy, original gangster. And it's minty mint. It's nice and fresh. Looks like it hadn't been played since it was released. And it's just beautiful. So that was the pick of the day right there. Pick of the day. Someone say pick of the day. Pick of the day. Yeah, that's the pick of the day. The pick of the day was the Led Zeppelin. And as soon as I got it home, I put it on. I cranked it up, man. You know, it's got Dazed and Confused, what, a 30-minute version or something. Oregon. I tried to listen to this one here. This is a jazz outfit with Ralph Towner. It's pretty mellow. It's awful mellow. It may end up going in the store. It might be a little bit too mellow for the Big Chief. Okay, then I listened to Patrick's show. He had a sale. Was it last week? I think it was last week. And he had John McLaughlin album here, When Fortune Smiles. This is one I didn't have, so I'm getting ready to play this one today. I want to listen to this. So this is When Fortune Smiles. It's really cool looking cover. And I'll take it out of the cover so you can see it a little better. That's pretty cool. So pretty simplistic. Yeah. So there you go. I'm going to listen to that. I love John McLaughlin. I saw him live one time in Connecticut. How about some PFM? I always butcher the name. Prementa Fornaria Marconi. The World Became the World, or La Solia Denente, which was this is their third release. The vocals on here are a little bit tough. There's like two guys singing. One of them really sounds like crap, and then one of them guys sounds pretty good. But they're Italian. They're English is a second language. So, but I love PFM. Another band that I need to talk about in another world and another time. I do a top 10 of bands that are from Europe, but not necessarily from England. So like German bands and Italian bands. And I think that's an idea what do you think? Write down in the comment section below if you think that that's a good idea to do that. I could do a show on that for sure. I got lots of stuff. And I'm going to be doing a record show in August in Charlotte, North Carolina. Yeah, I'm going to be bringing a bunch of records out there for sale, and I'm going to be selling them. So I'm looking forward to doing that. And also, you can go to my store, which is Big Cheap Vinyl 57 on Discogs, and check me out. I have a lot of stuff there, and I'll be taking all that merch, all that stuff. Plus, I'm working on getting some T-shirts made. I want to go ahead and bring all that to the record show in August in Charlotte, North Carolina. So looking forward to that. And I got to get some boxes, and I got to box a bunch of stuff up. And there's a bunch of stuff's going to be going because I don't listen to it, So you collect all this stuff, and then you don't listen to it. But that's the name of the game. That's what it goes on. And then you take that money that you get from the sale, and then you buy more records at the show. And then people that go to shows all the time, like Harry and Mazzy, and there's a whole bunch of people out there that do record shows. They'll probably tell you the same thing. You probably spend more money than what you made at the show because you're addicted to these things. It's been an addiction for a long time, but I guess it's better than being on crack or heroin. So there you go. So here we go. So here's Dragonfly, the Straubs. This was the one I did not have. And this is the one that just came in the mail 2 days ago, and I just listened to it, and it's pretty mellow. This is early Straubs now. They're more of a folky sound than they got into later on with Ghost and stuff. So there you go. And that was the only one I was missing. This was a UK copy that I got for a song. This album goes for like $100. I picked it up I got it for less than $20. Distant Thunder, Checkfield, another band that my friend John turned me on to. This is another one of their records. I think I have 3 of their records now. Into the Lens, I think I need to find that one. I have it on CDR. I don't have it on, but I'm working on it. I want to get it on vinyl. And I just got their other one, which I just listened to the other day. And these sound incredible. And I need to do a show on American Gramophone records. All the Fresh Air and Mannheim Steamroller. Those albums sounded freaking incredible. And I got a couple of Passport albums. These were like $5 a piece. I did not have handmade. I don't believe this was recorded and released, in the U.S. I think this was a German only. But I found a copy, a cheap copy, and really good copy. I got Passport Ocean Liner. I love Passport. Klaus Doldinger, of course. I'm looking for his Das Boot soundtrack. And he did the soundtrack to that. He's the main man behind Passport. So that's all the stuff. I showed a whole bunch today, didn't I? I'm saving all the stuff that I got at the record show for next week's show. I've already been rambling on for about 34 minutes. So let's go ahead and put an end to this soundtrack of my life show, showing you my top 10 bands. And I'm going to find that sticker. And if I find that sticker, I'm going to show it to you this weekend when I get when we do the next show. I'm going to show you that Yes sticker because I had in there where they were from. I believe they were all from London, if I'm not mistaken. John Anderson was from London, England, and the rest of them were from that vicinity. And they were formed. Yes was formed in the 60s, around 68. And with the original band was with Bruford and Peter Banks, and of course, and then the rest, Tony Kaye and Chris and John, and then they morphed into what they became, which was the golden years or whatever when they started with the Yes album, and then they did Fragile and Close to the Edge, and then the Relayer with Patrick Moraz, and of course don't forget Tales from Topographic Oceans. Which is, I was telling somebody not too long ago that that was like my favorite Yes album because I love Tales all the way through, all 4 sides. I think it's the peak of their, well, close to the edge. I'd say close to the edge, and tails were probably right there at their peak. And then relayer, of course, is great too. And of course, and then later on, they put out some great stuff too. I like Magnification. I like The Ladder. The last two albums they did with John Anderson. And then Yes was done. Oh no, Steve Howe's got the Steve Howe band. I forgot. Okay, so 35 minutes. Wow, this is a long show for the North Carolina Vinyl Picker. We're going to say goodnight, and we'll be talking to you soon. And my dogs have been quiet the whole time. It's a miracle. It's awesome. So you be good out there and support them troops, and we'll be talking to you soon. We'll see you next weekend with all the stuff that I got from the record show, and I got some footage to show you from the record show as well. So take care. We'll be talking to you soon. Bye for now. Oh, support and hit the thumbs up if you like my show.